Hello, my name is Keelan Berger. I'm a sustainability studies student at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, and I'm here to share some of my research I've done that looks into the social and environmental design of food systems by studying permaculture. My original goals of this project was to learn more about what permaculture is and the interactions our food system has with culture, society, and the economy. I also want to take a deep dive into specific areas of U.S. history to see how our food system became so industrialized and how we can convince Americans to take up growing their own food sustainably. I want to take these lessons I learned from history and apply them to my personal life and the university's Visuta Garden community. To summarize my research, the World War II Victory Garden campaign was established to help the United States' ever-declining food production as more and more farmers became soldiers. Patriotism was highly advertised in the ad campaign, and ads often targeted women and even sometimes children, as seen in this Marvel comic. This was problematic for several reasons. Firstly, only 20% of Americans stated patriotism as a reason for gardening during this time, while over half stated economic reasons. Secondly, the reduction of women into a perceived gender role does not help the case of women's rights. And thirdly, companies took advantage of the situation to sell unnecessary fertilizers and pesticides rather than teach sustainable gardening techniques that I'll get into later. The idea of victory gardens has been revived with our current coronavirus pandemic, once Americans realized how fragile our current industrial agriculture food system is and grocery stores started running out of food. The Great Depression is a good example of Americans growing food for survival during a severe economic downturn and unemployment, much like we are seeing today in 2020. This was a time when community gardens became a major food supply for many people. A single community garden in Detroit fed 20,000 people from 1931 to 1932. The government later started giving subsidies to companies and farmers to get the country back on its feet. Many farmers used this money to buy their first tractor, allowing them to work longer days with less breaks without having to rely on horses. As technology advanced, machines became more efficient, but also more specialized, forcing farmers to expand and specialize in specific crops. This led to our modern industrial agriculture system of today. Now, I could spend an entire 10-minute presentation going into all the reasons industrial agriculture is so bad, but the main points I'll bring up are A. The excessive soil erosion caused by machine tilling, and B. The toxic runoff from pesticides and fertilizers causing massive dead zones in our oceans and poisoning our drinking water. We can also learn a lot from the Native Americans' Three Sisters traditions. The relationship of corns, beans, and squash helping each other grow and supporting each other is the basis of companion planting. The corn is the oldest sister, being planted first. She acts as a trellis for the middle sister, the beans, to grow. The beans take nitrogen from the air and fix it into the soil, fertilizing her companions. The squash is the youngest sister. She acts as a ground cover, retaining moisture from past rains and protecting her older siblings from pests with her broad, prickly leaves. Using nature's design to work for you is so important if we are going to create a long-term sustainable food system. Companion planting is just one point of the larger idea of permaculture, derived from permanent agriculture, that I have been trying to draw on for inspiration in my personal gardening endeavors. I know you might be asking, why is this specific history important to remember right now? Well, we're at an amazing time in American history to spark change. We are living at the intersection of momentous historic problems that all need to be solved, giving us the opportunity to uproot our modern society and reshape it to how we see fit. We have already seen how our food system was able to change under just one or two of these stresses, such as severe economic downturn and war. Luckily, we don't have too much of that right now. We've also seen how our food system has changed. It perpetuated some of these listed issues like women's rights and climate change. As we develop and change our society and food systems, we must remember all of the other things that are going on in our world, and we need to make sure that we are not perpetuating any injustices. So how do we make a long-lasting systemic change that can solve all our problems? Honestly, I don't have the answer. I don't think anyone does. There are many ways to approach this problem, change from education, legislation, economic necessity, the list goes on. I do not know how to create a long-term sustainable food system. I do know that to create a long-term sustainable food system, we must find the intersection of environmental, social, and economic prosperity. And we can draw on these lessons from our history to inspire and guide us on our journey. When applying this research to Rensselaer's Visuta Garden, I used some of these lessons I've learned from my research to guide my thinking. I've come up with bed designs using companion planting techniques and focusing on perennial vegetables. I'm hoping to aid in the design of the general layout of the gardens to be used as a hub for sustainability and food systems education on campus. This includes trying to add some furniture to make a space for students to exist in and study outside, as well as developing a few activities to aid in soil rejuvenation. Eventually, I hope the Vasuda Garden can serve as a model for sustainable landscaping on campus that can someday convince the administration to expand these practices around campus. I hope the information presented here today can be helpful for other universities communities trying to start their own community gardens. I hope that this very specific dive into history brought to light how connected our modern food system is to the economy and society as a whole, and how fragile the whole system truly is. Thank you for watching.